Well, I tell you what, I mean, I had a chance to see you guys in Bowling Green, Kentucky a month or so ago.
Yeah, rock star.
And you, I know, man. I'll tell you what, got a chance to do a little rapping and all that stuff. You know, speaking of bald head and all that stuff. But man, one of the things that was really cool about your show was the worship moments.
Yeah.
And let me just say this. So, as a pastor, you know, I love worship and I love it. But one of my pet peeves is everyone's kind of jumping in that arena right now. But, but when I was at y'all's show, it was your heart really worshiping, you know, and the way you guys do these worship songs. I mean, it was one of my favorite elements of the show, you know, and of course awesome. I love the things that you guys do in your original music and all that. Okay. So I'm not saying that, but I was just so, blown away by the power of the worship in the moment. Amen. So it was really cool, man. I really appreciated that.
Jeff and I talked about it for years. We both wanted it in the set, but we could never really do it because
we had 5 opening bands. But this time, this tour...
He's so mad about that still, don't you?
This tour, we have no opening bands, which lets us cover that much ground in a show and play 30
Jeff put the show
songs.
together, so we discussed all the songs and put them all online. It was like, he said, how about these Tait and all these? I was like, yes.
It's a lot of fun to put a show like that together where you just have unlimited time to go back through, you know, because just like everyone comes to a show for different reasons, from a different era, from a different generation even now. So it's cool that we can touch on all of it. And I know what you said about, you know, the worship thing too. It feels like everyone is like frantically trying to just join the worship race, and it's hard to, you know, you want it to be genuine and from the heart. And all those, really, most of the songs we do in those sets were our songs from like 20
and what's
years
crazy,
ago. They were ours. They weren't
News Boys has
any,
been
like,
worship. I mean, back in DC Talk days, News Boys were still worship.
Yeah.
It is you we adore.
Yeah.
Holy, I mean, all those songs, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting era we're in where like, you know, everyone is racing to write songs that glorify God, but like there's a commercial pressure to do it. It almost seems a little bit counterintuitive, where like we come from like a pop place where we just write pop songs to entertain people. And I think it gets a little bit touchier when you're talking about like worship songs and what's genuine and what's
but I
not
will say
genuine.
this, when you talk, Jeff, about like entertaining people and things like that, you guys, the last album you guys did here a year or so ago, Stand has a lot of real life lyric that can speak to people. So let me just give you an example. So my little nephew who's struggling and going through some things with some fear and some anxiety and some different things like that, which is happening more and more with young people these days, which is just off the charts, you know. And you guys have a song on the Stand album that talks about fear, and it doesn't gloss over. Now it's done in a pop way, right, and it's great, but it was something that I could immediately. I sent it to my sister-in-law. I said, "Hey, play this song for me, just to kind of lift his spirits."
When I walk through the life, I won't be afraid. No.
Yes, and to be able to just send that, and you know, and there's times when we need to sing "I Speak Jesus." There's times when we need to sing a Revelation song, but there's also times when people need songs like "Won't Be Afraid." And that's the one thing I wish there was more of right now.
Let me add this, Josh. I call it social conscious music. That's what DC Talk wrote. Songs. Back in the day, this was it too. It's like for some reason we've just gone worship crazy. That's great. But my life should be worship. My eating should be worship. My you know, whatever I do, my communication with my loved ones should be worship.
Yes.
It's all worship to Christ, so it doesn't necessarily pigeonhole to a song. So we write songs nowadays. It can be tough sometimes. I don't naturally go to worship stuff. You know, we have a new record coming out. When it's done, don't ask when it's done. But a song we have right now, tentatively called Heaven on Earth or One Way Jesus, we're not sure. But the song is definitely pop worship, because I'm like, if I'm gonna do this worship thing, I've got to be who I am. And this is really the lane that I understand, you know? I mean, I'm not I'm not the other guy. I can neither him, neither there. My point is, yes, all sorts and types need to be out there for the people. Not just here we go, because that's not gonna
well, the one thing
I'll
say, it's been out for a while now, and I didn't ask you guys on here to plug what was before, but I will be your cheerleader and just say, listen, y'all. I mean, the Stand album And I'm not blowing smoke, and I haven't even said this to you, but I did text you back and forth, Jeff, and I was like, listen, man, this is like up there with the best stuff this band has done.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal to me. And I think that whole record from top to bottom was, I listened to it and I was, man, I wish more bands were like you guys and really sharing.
That was the goal of that record, was to...
We had time off, too.
We had time off. Obviously, we were, shut down from touring, so whatever. But I remember when you texted me when Magnetic came out and all that, and it's tough. I feel like, there's... The difference between now and then was, in the 90s and early 2000s, making pop music like we did, there was... things were not so centralized, like there was, if you came to Nashville during like Gospel Music Week, they would shut down all of downtown, and there was like 200 record labels, and all the artists and all the musicians and bands would come to town for the week, and it was just like this real festive atmosphere, and that's like completely gone. I mean, there's like three, like in every industry, it seems like in America now, there's like 3 or 4 people who own everything. And if you don't fit through those certain doors, your music kind of gets stuck at certain gatekeepers and it can go to a certain point, but it can't get much further than that. And like everyone always thought that like the internet and streaming would be like this magical thing that would help save us from corporate stuff or whatever, and it did to a certain extent, but it's like I try to explain to people what the 90s was like for Christian music, and when I do, like kids just look at me like, you've got to be kidding, that sounds amazing.
Magical time.
And it was a time that hopefully we'll get to see again. And well, someone can bring back.
You guys were playing. I got to be a guy who just went and bought the product and checking it out, and I mean, I have my favorite bands, and I've told Jeff this before on the side, that one of the things I just loved was how different the bands were.
Yeah.
Right.
That I could have of my share of everything, and listen, I love a lot of music out there now, but I was going to
say a lot of us are like, a lot of us very similar, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it just is. I'll be the first to say it.
There are times when I was like, man, does just one guy get hired to sing everybody's song?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of similarity, you know. But again, I go back to you guys. You're not doing that, and you've maintained your uniqueness in that, and your identity in that, and so I'm thankful.